A healthy, tempered ego is frequently required for success in life. It empowers us to compete, persuade others of our strengths, and outperform our previous successors. However, when we achieve success, our ego often becomes overblown. As our self-image expands beyond our perception of others, our judgment can become muddled. We can get so confident that we overstep our bounds and end up paying the price. Controlling our pride is thus a vital step. But how do we do so? In this book, you'll learn where ego comes from and how it can stymie your achievement. You'll learn techniques for calming your ego, regaining humility, and abandoning the pursuit of praise in favor of sharing it with others. The ego is the desire to obtain credit without having to work for it. As the saying goes, actions speak louder than words. But if that's true, why do we wish to feel popular or to be recognized by others, even for things we didn't do? We may credit our ego for that. Ego is the desire to receive fame or credit without performing the necessary good deeds. Although achievement can bring appreciation, many people strive to become well known before they achieve success. Consider the case of former U.S. President Ulysses S. Grant, who was once a popular commander in the U.S. Army. He ran for president after the American Civil War and won. However, while Grant was well known in the Army, he was not well versed in politics. Grant is the perfect example of an egoist because of his desire to reach the highest political office despite his lack of education. In contrast to ego, ambition is built on a solid basis of actual accomplishments. Consider the case of William Tecumseh Sherman, a general who served alongside Grant in the war. Sherman was likewise effective in his duties, but unlike Grant, he was not an egoist. Keep your ego in check by remembering that there is always more to learn. It is not possible to learn that which one believes one already understands, said Epictetus, an ancient Greek philosopher. This is related to our ego once more. Our ego tells us that we're too smart to learn new things, and while the belief is tenacious, we can overcome it if we learn to humble ourselves. One way to keep our egos in check is to imagine ourselves as students who never stop learning. Even if you're exceptionally skilled at what you do, your ego can easily get the best of you. You can avoid this by remembering that there is always someone better than you. Consider the guitarist Kirk Hammett. Metallica invited him to join their band in 1980, where his musical abilities would be able to emerge. However, Hammett was conscious that, despite being a member of one of the most famous rock bands of all time, he wasn't finished studying. Hammett studied with world-renowned guitar maestro Joe Satriani and was able to raise his guitar talents to a whole new level as a result. Working with a very accomplished colleague allowed Hammett to remain modest, which is one of the best ways to curb your ego. Pride causes us to be deaf to warnings and ignorant of potential problems. Consider what would happen if some of the world's greatest inventors let their early successes get to their heads. Assume Steve Jobs has sat on his laurels after inventing the Apple II computer. We probably wouldn't have iPhones or iPads now. So, why do we tend to sit back and relax once we've achieved success? Our pride causes us to rest on our laurels. Pride and ego are not synonymous, yet they do go hand in hand. Pride helps us rationalize our ego by making us believe that one triumph demonstrates how unique we are. We're too busy congratulating ourselves on the back to understand there's room for improvement or that we could achieve even more. Pride not only prevents us from learning and succeeding, it also makes us exceedingly sensitive to criticism and deaf to warnings. Because their ego is based on their deception, proud people are extremely vulnerable to becoming defensive or even hostile. If someone tells them that they aren't as special as they believe they are, rather than confronting the fact that we are not the best in the world at what we do, many of us are willing to oppose anything that undermines our pride and ego. At times, even Benjamin Franklin was overcome by his hubris. While visiting his hometown in Boston, Cotton Mather, one of the town's most respected citizens, called him, saying, "Stop! Stop!" Franklin looked to reason that he was above the gesture and ignored him, which was a bad decision, and then he walked directly into a low door frame, cruelly smacking his skull. Control your ego by learning to delegate tasks and trust your teammates. Do you have trouble trusting your team or colleagues? Have you ever felt like you couldn't delegate responsibilities to them because they wouldn't perform the job as excellently as you would? These are some serious indicators that your ego needs to be tamed. Try putting your trust in other people's work. You and your team will benefit from it. As you advance up the work ladder and assume greater managerial responsibilities, you may experience ego clashes. You may have been accustomed to receiving credit for your work, yet your new position may require you to supervise and work with others. Many of us have the habit of piling up chores that we should be delegating. Why? Because your ego tells you that we are the only ones who can accomplish them properly. You will push yourself and trust and recognize the work of others if you practice delegating. You'll also understand that other people's time could be better spent on activities you used to do. And you'll realize how valuable your time can be when you're committed to other things. If that isn't enough to persuade you, keep in mind that the consequences of not delegating can be very high. In fact, they can be enough to bankrupt any organization. We owe much of our achievement to others and should not take credit for it. Nobody is an island. So, what is it that makes us want to claim our successes as our own? Whether we achieve success after overcoming adversity or solely by hard work, it's far too easy to let our triumphs get in our heads and convince ourselves that everything was entirely our fault. Take, for example, basketball players Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. Both were world-class players with the Los Angeles Lakers, winning 3 consecutive championships, 2000, 2001, and 2002. They were a fantastic team. Nevertheless, they both let their success get to their heads. Bryant refused to sign with the Lakers again until they moved O'Neal to a different team, and O'Neal usually complained about Bryant's flaws to the public. What would you do if you found yourself in the same situation? If you are unexpectedly asked to give an interview with a magazine or obtain a large number of followers on social media, it is easy to believe that you are better than the colleagues who helped you get there along the way. Instead of seeking accolades for yourself, why not share them with others? Normally, they'll do the same thing for you in return. Certainly, some careers rely on a person's popularity. Having humility, on the other hand, will boost your career indefinitely. Appreciating people who help you along the way, from the accountants who provided you with the data for that charming presentation to the designer who created those fantastic infographics, will enhance your position. Your staff will like working with you and perform better, and you will continue to attract new colleagues. When you give it your all and things don't go as planned, figure out why so you can do better the next time. It's natural to get frustrated if one of your best ideas are rejected or if you don't receive the job you applied for. Nonetheless, our egos tell us that we are entitled to rewards. However, the world does not always function by our strategies. Even when we try our hardest, we don't always obtain a promotion or a sure deal. So, how do we deal with this? Instead of becoming frustrated, we might start by embracing the effort we've done and realizing that we can't consistently change the outcome of the work or people's perceptions of us. Unexpected outcomes should be viewed as an opportunity to reflect on our performance. On the other hand, we must remember that lucky opportunities are not the same as hard work-based achievement. As a result, we must once again be honest with ourselves about our performance. Conclusion: ego is not something that a person consciously develops. It is a feature of everyone's personality that develops organically, particularly about success. An unrestrained ego can be detrimental to your success, and you must take precautions to ensure that it does not spiral out of control. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Also, let us know in the comments which book summary you'd like to see in the future.